Welcome to the Red Half of Sheffield preview pod, back once again to do this off the back of what I thought we were done with international breaks about a month ago. Unfortunately, we had another one. So this is the last one. Hopefully, I think so, probably until March. And I am here to preview Sheffield United, Coventry City, early kickoff next Saturday. And I am joined by Josh. How are you doing today? Welcome to the
I'm
show.
not. I'm good, Chad. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not bad, not bad. Well, let's get into, I guess we'll call it the elephant in the room. Uh, what happened at Cove? I'm still scratching my head to figure out how the hell and why the hell Mark Robbins got sacked. You're closer to it than I am. Give me your take. What happened?
Well, it's not been the greatest season, Chad. We've spent a lot of money again in the summer, brought in some what I think very good players, and we've just not had results. And I think that in addition to that as well, we've lost a lot of our backroom staff. After the Wolves game last season in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, we lost one of our head coaches in Dennis Lawrence. That was a big miss. Then in the summer, we lost our assistant manager, Adi Vivash, who was an even bigger miss. He was a massive personality in the dressing room, a really, really key. He played a really key role in bringing a lot of players to the club, ex-Chelsea players like Todd Kane, Casey Palmer, and those sorts of players. And it seems like Mark Robbins has had a lot taken away from him in terms of staff that he trusts.
Mhm.
Our owner, Doug King, has tried to change the whole model of the club in terms of staff. So we've now got performance directors, we've got people that are in charge of like players' sleep, dieting. It's much more in depth.
Mhm.
And I just feel like in the end, Robin's just ran out of time. And it's not just down to him. The players have let him down too. We've
Yeah,
had too many passengers this season, too
yeah,
many 4 and 5 out of 10 players.
yeah,
And unfortunately, it's a results business, as you know, Chad.
yeah.
And you've got to at some point put the emotion to one side and say, look, it's time to go, you know. But I think most COD fans are over it now. I think most COD fans are still hurting, but I think we're looking to the future now and looking forward to seeing who this new person is.
Yeah, it's when I read the news, I was like, this has got to be a parody account or somebody just talking out their ass or something. And it's just like, no, this is true. You hear more outlets come out with it, and it's just like, wow, everything he's done. I mean, I hope years down the road he's welcome back, with nothing but the best by Cove fans. Which I mean, for what he did is we talked leading up to this recording. He took you within a few kicks of the Premier League in the penalty shootout against Luton, and it's just all the way from League One. I mean, I thought he would be of all the managers, as you mentioned though, it in especially in this league, it's because everybody wants to get out of it because they want to get that payday in the Premier League. So if you do have a bad run of form, like I'm still surprised even Rob Edwards is still in charge at Luton. And I mean, they've had an awful start to the season. I mean, but they gave him extension in the summer, and I think they're gonna let him roll through. Um, but yeah, it is really, really, it just, oh man, it blew my mind. So off the back of that, there's been some high profile names, and I won't name the names or anything, but who would you, Josh, like to see in charge of Cove?
If you asked me this maybe 2 or 3 days ago, before a certain bit of news broke, I would have honestly said to you, I don't really care because
Mhm.
there's no one that were favourites that really interested me in the slightest.
Mhm.
But I want Ruud van Nistelrooy. That is the name that I think would be. If Doug's got making up to do with COV fans, appointing someone like Ruud would go a long way to do that.
Yeah.
Because we're not after a manager. People will say that he's not got managerial experience. We're not actually advertising for a manager. We're advertising for a head coach. And I
Mhm.
think he suits that role perfectly, especially with how he uses wingers. We've got some really talented wingers, Tatsira Sakamoto, Ephraim Mason-Clark. I think he will bring the best out of the likes of those players. So it's rude for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's you see you see Rude's name, and then you see Frank Lampard, and You probably don't want that. No, I don't think he could
Give
be
me
a
a bit.
manager, a head coach. He couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag if you paid him $1 million.
Yeah,
So I think that would just do detrimental things to Cover if they got him. But Rude would it'd be a flashy signing for sure. So I mean, if he can come through the door, obviously, any inklings, is this going to be done before the weekend, or are you going to go into Saturday's match with the interim manager?
I think we'll still be managerless / head coachless on Saturday, which wouldn't bother me, to be honest. I know we'll probably get into this, but I'm not really confident going into the game against you guys,
Mhm.
but despite us having a decent record against you in recent years. But I think if we're going to get this appointment right, and I'm not just talking about a head coach for the next year or two, I'm talking 5-6 years in the future.
Yeah.
I'd rather take us a little bit more time, maybe another week, 10 days, to make sure it's absolutely right, because there's a lot riding on this. If this appointment isn't right, I can see our fan base turning toxic once again, and we've been there too many times in the past to go there again.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Over here in the States, we want to, as soon as you hit a bad run of form, you're gone. We gotta get to somebody else in the door.
Mm.
How you set it up, Josh, is you're more along the lines of how I envisioned it setting up as a manager. You don't, because the first inkling of anything that goes south, and then the owner or whoever opens his mouth about the coach is safe and or in everything along the lines of that. No, you need to hire somebody that's going to be here for 5, 6, 7. You don't see that in football, and I understand the results. It's a results based business, and if you results fall off, yeah, they're going to want to have you sacked. But it's one of those deals where I think more teams need to start giving coaches more time to see if you do have a bad run of form, can he work his way out of it and get you back up on the upswing? And that's the biggest thing, is just these fan bases are impatient, and with so much money in this game now, the ownership has to almost be rational. I don't think that's any way to be.
I've
Um,
I've made comparisons and analogies, Chad, on our podcast, and I've said that I think it's also a generational thing,
mm,
because if you
yeah.
want to order food or you want a pizza, it's at your house within an hour. If
Mhm,
you want to order something on Amazon or eBay, it's at your house the next day. So I
mhm.
think it is a generational thing where people want success and they want things instantly, pretty much,
Yeah,
which I think is just a sign of the times as well, which
yeah.
is a sad state of affairs for me.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. When you put it in that big of terms, it all makes sense. It's like if you don't get something right now, you're like, well, I want it now, and it needs to be here now. Why is it not here? Yeah. When you put it in that terms, I never thought about it like that. That's a great way to sum it up. Okay. So while we're all here, sum it up. How do you think it goes at the Rico Arena, or Coventry Building Society Arena, whatever it is? I used to know it as the Rico. It's gone through a name change, but how do you think it goes Saturday lunchtime kickoff?
um, I think it'll be two very good teams on paper going into it. I'm very, like I said, I'm not too confident about the result. I think you
Mhm.
guys will win. What I am interested to see, though, is the reaction of our fan base to Gustavo Hamer and Callum O'Hare coming
Yeah.
back,
Mhm.
because probably Callum more so left in not the best of terms with. There's loads of politics with him not getting the money he asked for from our owner and whatnot, but I do want to see him get a good reception because they did a lot for the club.
Mhm.
And I'll still stand by this. Gustavo Hamer is the best Coventry City player I've seen ever. Better than Jokeres when I saw him. Now,
Really?
both have gone on a very different
Yeah.
trajectory since then.
Yeah.
But in their last season with us, that game against Luton, Gustavo Hamer is the best player I've seen. So I'll be
Yeah.
looking forward to giving him his flowers when he comes back, because we
I
didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. You know?
I will I will agree with you. Gus Hamer doesn't need to be playing in this division with us. The fact that there were he was probably in and around our best player last season in such a horrible season, but he had also never played at that level. So he got acclimated 38 games at that level. I like that he didn't, if during the summer there were rumblings of people coming in for him and offers, I kind of like that he stayed at the club. Now, if he gets us up again, we're going to go back down again. Then he can move on. I'm perfectly fine with that. But he is a great player. When we acquired him from Cov, I was like, okay, this is. And then he played. I mean, in a team that was so bad, he had bright spots, but he just, you can't succeed in a team that loses 33 out of 38 games. But yeah, and O'Hare's been okay so far. To say he's been, I just say he's okay. I certainly thought he was coming into this side and was just gonna tear it up in a sense, but he's still kind of finding his footing and his role in this team. But still, nonetheless, I mean, he's a great player at this level. I wonder if the knee injury, and I don't know because he tore his knee up against us when you played you guys 2 years ago. I wonder if and I'll ask you this before I give my prediction on the match. When he came back from that knee injury, did he look the same player to you, or did he look a bit slower?
From the best of my memory, I don't think he was the same player that he was when he got injured.
Yeah.
I think that there's aspects of his game that have always been missing for me. Things like his finishing can always improve. He has his odd few games where he's insane with shooting and whatnot, but shooting's an area where he can improve. But yeah, he wasn't as agile. He wasn't maybe as quick to turn on the ball, which he loves to do. He's that little player, isn't he, that likes to draw fouls and whatnot. But maybe that's a confidence thing as well. Who knows? Because he's had such a bad record of injuries. I don't really blame the guy if that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense because he does look at times, like you said, he's playing with his hair on fire, and then, other games is just a little bit timid and, kind of goes missing for good spells of the game. So I just, from a Cubs view, because you have watched him more than our sample size to start this season. For me, I think it's coming out of the international break. This is an interesting one because Cov shouldn't be where they are in the league. They should be higher up the league, obviously. I particularly am a big fan of Cov City. I just think United coming out of this international break, they tore the city down for beating Wednesday in the derby. I think this one it's going to be a paint drying type game, a very boring game. I think we nick it 1-0 and going, but this isn't going to be for the neutral. I can tell you that because most of United's games this season have been dull and like slapping paint on a wall and watching it dry. So Josh, before we get out of here, drop where the people can find the pod. And he had he teased something before we hit the record button. So I'll open the floor to him.
Don't be scared, Chad. It's all good. So yeah, we're All Things Sky Blue. You can find us on podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, all that good stuff. Also on social media, including TikTok. So please do give us a follow on there. If you can subscribe to us on YouTube as well, that would be amazing. Any podcast that you hear, there are video versions available on there as well. We're just past 600 subs, so we're looking to climb to 700 if we can. That's enough plug-in for me. Chad, you say you're from the US, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Which team do you think is more popular in the US between Sheffield United and Cov? I'm hoping you say Sheffield United because it was going to ruin my bit otherwise.
Well, I don't know. It's a good. I'll just go ahead and say Sheffield United to play the bit, but I don't honestly know.
Well, I have in my hands the United States Championship that indicates that Coventry City are the biggest team in the US. That's my bit. You're welcome.
Oh, nice. Go give Josh and the guys over there All Things Sky Blue podcast to follow. And until Saturday, and then I preview a double match day for the next game after Cov, I will leave you guys with Up the Blaze.